In the year 1587, on the remote shores of Roanoke Island along the coast of what is now North Carolina, more than 100 English settlers attempted to build a new life across the ocean. They came with hopes, with plans, and with the fragile belief that this distant land might become their permanent home. When supply ships returned 3 years later, the settlement was silent. The colony was gone, and not a single settler remained. In the late 16th century, the kingdoms of Europe pushed outward across the oceans. England, eager to challenge Spain's dominance, dreamed of overseas colonies that would bring both wealth and power. Exploration was still a dangerous venture. Maps were incomplete. Storms were frequent. Disease and hunger were constant threats. Yet the promise of owning land and shaping a new society seemed worth the risk. Against this backdrop, Sir Walter Raleigh sought to establish an English foothold in the New World. Earlier expeditions had scouted the coastline. Reports described Roanoke Island as fertile and defensible, with access to the sea and nearby native communities. In 1587, a civilian colony was organized rather than a purely military outpost. Families joined the expedition. Craftsmen, farmers, women and children. Around 115 settlers set sail across the Atlantic, under the leadership of John White, who had previously drawn maps and watercolors of the region. When they arrived, the settlers found the remains of the earlier military camp, abandoned and decaying. Supplies were already limited. Relations with local native tribes were tense due to the actions of earlier English expeditions. Still, the colonists began repairing structures and planting crops. They built simple wooden houses. They dug storage pits. They explored the coastline and tried to establish trade. Life was harsh from the beginning. The climate was unfamiliar. Food was difficult to secure. Much depended on seasonal harvests and fragile alliances. The settlers also relied heavily on promised resupply from England. John White soon faced pressure to return across the ocean and request more provisions. Before leaving, he witnessed the birth of his granddaughter, Virginia Dare, the first English child born in North America. Her arrival symbolized the colony's hope for permanence. White reluctantly sailed back to England. His departure left the colonists with dwindling tools, uncertain support from local tribes, and no clear line of communication. They waited. Months became seasons. Storms battered the coastline. As time passed, the Atlantic crossing became more dangerous due to war between England and Spain. White was delayed repeatedly. 3 years would pass before he could return. Back in England, the colony slowly slipped from daily conversation. The settlers waited in silence on the far shore. No letters arrived. No ships appeared on the horizon. The small group of English men, women, and children remained isolated in a vast and unfamiliar land, suspended between hope and abandonment. In 1590, after years of delay, John White finally secured passage back to Roanoke Island. The journey was slow and hazardous. The Atlantic was unpredictable, and piracy and conflict made every mile uncertain. White carried with him a sense of dread mixed with determination. Somewhere across the ocean, his family and friends were waiting. Or so he hoped. When the ship reached the coastline near Roanoke, the settlement appeared strangely quiet from a distance. There was no smoke rising from hearth fires. No movement between the trees. No boats waiting at the shore. White and the crew rowed ashore in uneasy silence. The closer they came, the more apparent it became that something was deeply wrong. The fort's wooden palisades still stood, but the buildings inside were dismantled or gone. Tools and household items were missing. There were no signs of struggle. No bodies. No clear evidence of flight or violence. Instead, the entire colony seemed to have been carefully removed, as if life had simply been folded up and carried away. White searched desperately for any trace of his family. He found none. The only clue was a word carved into a wooden post, Croton. Another carving, shortened to CRO, appeared nearby. These marks had significance. Before White left the colony, the settlers had agreed on a signal system. If they relocated, they would carve the name of their destination. If danger forced them to leave under duress, they would carve a cross alongside it. There was no cross here. Only the name. Croton referred to a nearby island and the native people who lived there. White wanted to sail there at once, but storms and damaged ships prevented further exploration. The crew feared being wrecked along the coast. Supplies were limited. Reluctantly, they abandoned the search and turned back toward England. The mystery remained unsolved. Rumors spread. Some believed the settlers had integrated with native tribes. Others claimed they died of disease, starvation, or conflict. Over time, speculation expanded into legend. Hints of European features among later native communities fueled claims of assimilation. Archaeological fragments suggested possible movement inland. But no documented proof emerged. The absence of evidence became more powerful than any single theory. Generations passed. Records faded. The settlers' names remained in English archives, but their final days disappeared from the historical record. Roanoke slowly transformed from a colonial experiment into a haunting question mark. What happened to the colony? Where did they go? And why did every trace of their lives seem to vanish so completely? The climax of the Roanoke story is not a dramatic battle or a single catastrophic event. Instead, it is the moment of realization. The moment when John White stands inside the empty settlement and understands that everyone is gone. He sees the abandoned earthworks, the trampled grass, the open spaces where houses once stood. He hears only wind and insects. There are no voices, no footsteps, no familiar faces. His granddaughter is gone. His daughter is gone. Every settler has disappeared. White searches through the ruins, piece by piece. He notices that the houses were taken apart carefully, suggesting a planned relocation rather than a panic. He finds remnants of English tools missing from their usual places, perhaps carried away for reuse. The carvings Croton and CRO become the only tangible marks left by the settlers. They do not explain what happened. They do not describe danger. They simply point toward a direction. A possibility. This discovery marks the emotional peak of the story. It represents not only the loss of individuals but the collapse of an entire colonial dream. England had imagined Roanoke as a foundation stone for future expansion. Instead, it becomes a void. A blank space on the map. White, who had intended to reunite with his family, now faces the reality that he may never learn their fate. The Atlantic world proves itself indifferent to human plans. The ocean, the forests, and the shifting alliances between cultures erase the settlement from sight. Storms rise, threatening the ships. White cannot investigate Croton Island or the mainland further. The moment passes. The trail goes cold. He is forced to leave, carrying only questions back to England. His final glimpse of Roanoke is of an empty shoreline fading behind the waves. From that point forward, the colony exists only in fragments, a carved word, scattered artifacts, conflicting reports. There is no single witness to explain the ending. No diary. No final letter. The settlers do not speak again. History records their arrival. It does not record their departure. That silence becomes the heart of the mystery and its lasting power. The colony does not end with a clear conclusion. It ends with absence. Roanoke Island grows quiet. The sounds of building fade. No axes. No shouts. No trading. Only wind across the grass. The wooden palisade begins to weaken. Boards loosen. Nails rust. Time pushes forward. Nature waits for no one. The homes stand empty. Fire pits grow cold. Ash turns to dust. Crops wither in the fields. Paths disappear beneath weeds. The colony becomes part of the landscape. But the names remain somewhere. Written in English records. Spoken in distant memories. Men. Women. Children. Families who crossed an ocean. They began a life here. And then they were gone. John White returns too late. He searches the fort. He calls out. No one answers. He finds the carvings. Crow. Crowtone. They are the last words left behind. There are no bodies. No burn walls. No signs of battle. Only absence. Only silence. White tries to stay. He wants to search. He wants to follow the clue. But the sea turns violent. Storms rise. The crew fears wreckage. They sail away. He watches the shore fade. His family disappears with it. Years pass. England moves on. Other colonies begin. Jamestown grows. Plymouth follows. They write diaries. They bury their dead. They leave marks on the land. Roanoke leaves none. The story becomes a whisper. A rumor. A mystery told by travelers. Perhaps they joined local tribes. Perhaps they starved. Perhaps disease took them. Perhaps they fled inland. No one can prove it. Historians return centuries later. They dig into the soil. They recover fragments. A metal clasp. Broken pottery. Pieces of a vanished life. But the story still refuses to finish. The colony becomes a question. Not an answer. The island stands unchanged. Water laps against the shore. Trees sway. Birds pass overhead. The same sky holds its place. But the people are missing. Once, voices filled this place. Once, laughter echoed at night. Once, hope lived here. Families planted crops. Mothers held children. Men shaped wood into homes. They dreamed of a future. One day, that future ended. Quietly. Completely. Without a recorded word. The world forgets for a while. Wars erupt elsewhere. Empires rise and fall. Nations form. Cities grow. New stories replace old ones. Roanoke waits in the background. Just a name on parchment. Just a mark on an old map. Only later does the mystery return. Writers rediscover it. Schools teach it. Tourists visit the island. They walk through the silence. They try to imagine the lost colony. But the land gives no clear reply. There are no last letters. No farewell prayer. No single final moment recorded. Only disappearance. And so the story ends not with a conclusion, but with emptiness. With a pause. With a gap in the record. The settlers step out of sight. And never step back in. Their lives dissolve into history. Their past becomes uncertain. Their fate becomes speculation. And the world keeps moving. Yet the memory lingers faintly. Like the carved word on weathered wood. Like footprints washed by the tide. The colony came. The colony lived. The colony vanished. Gone without farewell. Gone without graves. Gone without certainty. Gone forever. And history leaves the silence untouched. Thank you for watching. New historical stories are published regularly.